Hello, my fellow Malaysians. My name is Professor Dr. Muhammad Tajuddin, and for today's video, I would like to make some personal comments on the decision of MCA and MIC to not campaign at Kuala Kubu Baru. The question here is this decision honourable or is this decision a selfish one? Now, this decision by MCA and MIC for not campaigning sends various signals. Number one, they are sending a signal of disunity within the coalition of unity government that comprises of not just UMNO but Barisan Nasional with the other parties like GPS, GRS and Pakatan Harapan. It also signals a very disturbing trend of wanting to boycott elections simply to show protest against what is considered to be some unfair treatment in the government present administration. Now, for my first analysis, by looking at what is the reason for MCA and MIC in not joining the campaign. Now, the reason that I have read, number one, from parties like the MCA and MIC, was that if a Barisan Nasional candidate is not going to pick for Kuala Kubu Baru, then they will not come down to help with the campaign. Now, for me, this is a clearly selfish reason because UMNO is part of Barisan Nasional and it is the biggest component party. And it is coming down to help with the campaign for what is likely to be a DAP candidate. Whether the DAP candidate is going to be a Chinese or a Malay, UMNO is going to come down. Now, we must know that UMNO is not really a favorite of Malaysians because of the Akmal Saleh incident and the support of UMNO with Akmal Saleh. But that issue has died down after Akmal was called by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong and UMNO was also called. And I suppose that has made some impression on the party as well as the person of Akmal himself. Now, even though they have this track record that is very bad, but still UMNO is coming down. Now, for me, what is the excuse of MCA and MIC in this regard? The component party member, UMNO, is coming down, but they merajuk or not coming down. So that clearly shows there are many other ulterior motives involved. That's number one. And number two, the other reason that I also read is that MCA is saying things like, well, why should they campaign for the DAP? The DAP has said many bad things about the MCA, being this and being that, and all that sort of thing. And therefore, they do not feel that it is appropriate for them to go and help their enemy, even though they are in the same coalition or the same unity government. For me, this is a kind of unprofessional attitude, and it's bordering on being childish. Or perhaps we can also say immature. Now, as an academic, as well as a columnist and a person who has given many opinions on politics, I have been insulted, have been said many bad things by my own race, which are the Malays, and also with my own religious worshippers, which are the Muslim, who says that many of my views are not within the mainstream idea of Islam, even though I have given the idea that Islam that I preach is from the Prophet, not from some Malay ustaz who has very narrow-minded perspective. So I've been criticized, I've been left out, I've been isolated, even by universities that I work for. Now, this has never stopped me from writing about justice in Islam, as well as justice in a Malaysian construct. And when I say justice, it is for all, whether they are Malays, Orang Asli, Dayak, Kadazan, Indians, Chinese, it's all, because that is what is demanded by my religion, which is Islam. which I learned from the Prophet Muhammad rather than from other sources which have race and political agendas. So for MCA to say things like, "Oh, they have been saying bad things, and therefore we're not gonna help them." Well, let's look at the example of one of the greatest leaders that I have known, Anthony Loke. When Pakatan Harapan did not manage to win the full number of votes to govern Malaysia, he went to GPS to personally apologize. Even though GPS and DAP have been enemies for many years and for a long time, but Anthony Loke went to ask for some apology so that they can work together as what the Yang di-Pertuan Agong wanted. So it shows the big-hearted nature of Anthony Loke. At the time when the cabinet was formed, even Anthony Loke was known to have said that perhaps it is better for DAP to stay out of the cabinet, even though they were the biggest party to have won the election within the unity government coalition. The PAS is the biggest party on the other side, and also in the whole of the parliament, as far as I understand it. Now, Anthony Loke has shown himself to be an excellent minister, going down to the ground, going in the MRT, and we can see his great commitment to work, also commitment to Malaysia. I know that the AP from among the Malays have been hounded, have been said many bad things, worse things than what have been said to me, but he continues to work. And so how is this in comparison to Wee Ka Siong's statement about DAP saying this and DAP saying that? Very childish and unprofessional. And then we also look at the third reason, where some of the non-Malay leaders are trying to say, now these Malay leaders come from politicians, like somebody in Penang who was once a DAP member but now is the sworn enemy of the DAP, have been saying about that the unity government has not brought in important reform. Now, for some people like MCA and MIC to perhaps agree with that, we have to understand that the Barisan Nasional under the UMNO, MCA and MIC had, in one sense, played a major role in destroying the country, whether economically as well as politically. Now, by saying destroying, I mean that such things like the 1MDB affair could not have happened if there is no voice from the MIC and MCA, but the silence that has been for many years has led to this corruption scandal being so big, as well as setting back the economic infrastructure of the country. So for people, whether in MCA, MIC or non-Malays, saying things like, oh, reform is not there, I have to remind that during the time of the Reformasi of 1999 and several elections after that, many non-Malays actually voted for Barisan Nasional. So whatever has happened here in terms of social as well as economic situation, we cannot simply say this is Anwar's fault, this is unity government's fault, this is DAP's fault, this is PKR's fault. Everything is very easily faulted here. We are conveniently forgetting that non-Malays supported Barisan Nasional at a time when they could have changed. I understand why they were reluctant, because they were afraid of Parti Islam Malaysia at the time with part of the Barisan Alternative. But Parti Islam Malaysia at that time had people like Mat Sabu, had Zulkifli, Dr. Zulkifli, had the late Arwah Salahuddin Al-Ayub, all great leaders, as well as Ni Aziz at that time, and yet the non-Malays wanted to support Barisan Nasional, as well as all the corruption that came back. Now, we can say that they were being pragmatic, but my question here is that why is it that when Anwar and the PKR and the PA supported UMNO in a few things, then they are said to be relegating on their promise of reform and things like that. This is just being pragmatic. Same thing as what has been done before by MCA and MIC as well as the non-Malays. So we need to think about that. Now, the final comment that I want to make is about the MIC. There are leaders within the Indian community who is advocating to boycott the Kuala Kubu Baru election by virtue of saying that the aid or the help, the unity government is not enough to help the Indian community. Now, this is a very strange thing to me because the Indian community under the Barisan Nasional have seen a lot of rich Indian leaders, but then their majority of their people are still in the very sad category of being in poverty as well as many social issues. Why is that? Why blame a Malay government or the Malays in the government when aid has already been given, but it has gone to the certain leaders? Now, anyone will tell you that in order for you to progress, you must look into yourself first. You must blame yourself first and then correct within yourself before you start looking at others. Now, if you were to say that the Malays or the Barisan Nasional or the UMNO people or now Anwar Ibrahim isolating the Indians, but then it's very strange. Once I went to comedy show featuring Alan Pereira, one of my favorite comedians other than Harith Iskandar and Douglas Lim. I saw 400-500 Indians paying 400-500 ringgit to attend his comedy show, including myself. I paid for the front seat. And so I said, why is this Indian people not helping their own community? And perhaps there are some who are actually helping, and this is the way forward. I have said many times, the poor, we need to help. And I'm helping one Malay family, and I don't believe giving my money to institutions of charity. I help directly. So this is an aspect of development and progress that we need to cultivate within ourselves. If we can help one family, then we should, because spiritually it is the highest marks given. Now, some people say highest marks are all this pilgrimage and prayers and things like that. I don't know about that, but I'm very convinced that prayers and pilgrimage are important, but it is not as important as helping others. And this is something which is, to me, the highest points in spirituality. And so we have the situation that if MIC and MCA is not helping in the Kuala Kubu Baru, there is no justification to say that it is an honourable thing to do. In fact, it is a dishonourable thing to do, a selfish thing to do, a childish thing to do, and an unprofessional thing that is going to be done. Now, as far as this sending a message to non-Malays to boycott the unity government, I implore my brethren Malaysians to rethink and look at what 60 years of MCA and MIC has done. Now, it's not fair to say that MCA, MIC and Barisan Nasional have destroyed the country. They have developed it within the first 20 or 30 years, but under Dr. Mahathir, we can see the destruction of our social, political, and the government machinery infrastructure being destroyed by his leadership. So this destruction has come with the cooperation of MCA and MIC, and we need to understand that. But as Malaysians and as spiritual people, we are able to forgive and we are able to move forward, not necessarily to forget. I never forget. But to forgive and to move forward, that is what Anwar is always saying, and I agree with him. And I think that we need to do the same. But if MCA and MIC wishes to be very childish, very unprofessional, very what we call dishonorable, then that is up to their party, and it shows that in the election they have no strength at all, because people also have no longer any respect for these two parties. But for them to boycott or not campaign, that will be even worse for them, and it will show that the trend of them disappearing from Malaysian politics is actually on its way. So that is how I think the reading of such a decision to be. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for listening, and I hope that Malaysians can have a more balanced view about Malaysian politics. Look at our history, look at those who criticize. What is their background? What did they do? And the principle that I've always held is, number one, if you can help someone, then you should, and you should not be asking anybody else to help, and to say things like the government must do this, the government must do that. We must do our part. This is a democracy. That's what we should be doing. Okay, and that's number one. And number two, it requires all of us to work together, to have patience, to have respect, and also to act in an inclusive manner, that all the problems are our problems, all the success that we may have are our success. These are the two principles that I hold on to, and I think we cannot develop this country if we keep pointing fingers at other people. It is us that need to actually buck up and come out and be respectful, but be also very helpful and also meaningful. With that, thank you very much.